Hello, everyone. My name is Elite Golden, and welcome back to Operation Andromeda. But this is not the German turn. This is a recap. We made it all the way to, geez, what is that? Turn 21. Yeah, turn turn 21, July of 1946, and we're calling it a day, as I'm sure many of you have already noticed. Um, this is the way the points finished for the game. This point right here. This is the deciding factor. The Americans came in and commandingly took Tokyo. Uh, Fantastic play by Major Foe. Well, truthfully, fantastic plays by everyone all around. It was such a blast to play with these guys. Everyone was so knowledgeable. I know that it was probably me by far who made the most mistakes in this game, and they were all really nice about when I was having to fix them all. Um, so thanks to my fellow players in this game for putting up with all of my all my mistakes and whatnot, and delayed in getting turns out. But we're finally here, and it was a heck of a game. The veteran was a great ally to have. He did very well, especially in the early game, even managing to take Sydney for a time. Ada Wolf, a grand adversary who played the Russians. I could never get Moscow. Would have never dreamed of being able to take that from him. Um, Arbubs on the British and French side, he was really tough the whole game. Um, we even every now and again I think twice. I think one time in my video and one time in his video, we got on together to actually roll dice together. Um, and he mopped the floor with me both times, absolutely destroying me. I think he took out the entire Italian Navy, suffering a total of 3 hits in 2 or 3 rounds of combat. Uh, so I jokingly told him after the first time that I'm not rolling dice with him ever again, and then I join his game again, and he beats me, and so then I had to bring it up again that every time we roll dice, he just wins. Uh, Unless I won that time. I forget. I forget now, but I know that we got on twice, and that was really fun. Um, that was really fun to do. But yeah, this is how the points stand. Had we gone any longer, I think the Americans probably Major Foe would have definitely led. Oh, and then Major Foe, yes, as the Americans, he and I very fortunately hardly came to blows in this game, and that's really good because if Major Foe has like touches any pieces on the board, I do my best not to touch those pieces and fight them because they will defeat me. In many of our games, I think, well, 2 instances I know for sure, his anti-aircraft guns hit me 3 for 3. So I don't like when he sends anti-aircraft guns against me. Um, but it's a good thing I didn't have to touch any of those this game. And so yeah, kind of getting on to the actual points of the game, I think the Americans probably would have had this pretty well, relatively easy point to get, considering Major Foe is at stage 3 of the last tech thing. He's got this one, and this one. He was darn close, and he probably would have gotten it. And us at the Axis really just trying to keep up at the end here. Um, he could have had that. Japan was dead in the water. They weren't going to get any of these back. What was funny was Italy was trying to go for this one. We almost had that in the end. It was a long shot, but we almost snagged one more point. And Lebensraum we were hoping to keep. Festering Europa probably would have just gotten probably kicked out. Just like African colonialism, every turn they get it back only to lose it by the end of the turn. Like Italy would have bombed the rails, and Germany would have lost somewhere to the Allied powers. So it was just going to be a slog, and Tokyo just finished it up. So I'll talk a little bit about my strategy. Funny enough, a new strategy was kind of born of this game, and it was truly a kill everything Germany. Um, Early on, Adolf and the Axis powers came to an agreement that we could work together and defeat the Allies and then maybe turn on each other if we really had to. And so there was this security that kind of really started at the beginning of the game, and it was advantageous to say the least for the Axis powers, perhaps disadvantageous for the Comintern. And what that kind of led to was the defeat of pretty much every neutral in Europe. The only neutrals we didn't get to touch were obviously here in Iberia, but Italy grabbed Switzerland when the British were out here being a huge threat to anything that they had. Of course, we aligned everything we could here, took out Yugoslavia. Actually, we weren't going to do this. I wanted to leave that for the whole game and just never have to deal with that. But when I had no other enemies, I just took it for the money. And then of course we grabbed our victory point, went up into Sweden because if they're neutral or if you control them, you get the bonus. And so I figured, hey, let's double dip. Let's get $3 from the bonus and $3 from Sweden plus that factory. Let's get the bonus from Norway and let's have all of Norway. And so we killed every neutral except for Greece and Iberia in Europe. And of course, perhaps as you've noticed in the game, is that that led to Germany collecting over $100 without being too deep into Russia. Of course, we're looking quite menacing now, but we were a lot more menacing earlier when we had all of this up through here, pretty good swaths through here. I think at one point we even had northern Russia. We had Kola, Karelia. We had all this. We were looking really good, and then the Allies just kind of um, decided that we can hold all these pieces in place for the whole game if we just threaten just killing one of these tiles and taking their point away. And so that's why the late game uh, plunge into Russia was really stifled. Um, I had no way to completely kill all of these offensive units over here that could just punch into the cities or punch into the coast. Even Italy here. I was being in a staff alliance with Italians. There were a lot more Italians before having to staff Paris because the Allies decided that they were going to make a landing, and land they did. Vichy France is gone. Aquitaine was taken. I was quite curious as to why he took Aquitaine instead of just kill all my land units and then just leave the land zone empty, still denying my point, but saving another plane and just killing the infantry. But then we noticed, well, I should say I noticed, and I brought it up to my ally to see what he thought was on it. But the Americans, with this landing space and this landing space, could attack Paris and land. So the Italians really had to bring it all back, and and they defended. The Americans went over here, took a lot of my stuff, and that's kind of why we ended the game with not a whole lot. The It was really starting to close in like on every side for us. Of course, the Soviets have now come out of their shell. You can't blitz into a fortified city, so or I think a fortification in general, but yeah, we could never blitz into Moscow, and Adolf did such a nice job making sure that we never held a territory adjacent to Moscow, so that we'd always have to be blitzing into it, and we couldn't blitz into it. So we now see that these guys are on the move here. These guys are These guys are ready to strike either Leningrad or Smolensk, possibly both. These guys, and then whatever these guys want to do, are ready to strike Stalingrad. So it probably would have only been a matter of time before we start getting rolled back. And even more so, we would have started getting rolled back because of the loss of Tokyo and the surrender of the Japanese. Um, but yeah, so it was quite a fantastic opportunity when that presented itself when the Soviets went into Istanbul, and the Allies have been reinforcing Istanbul. I thought it was the funniest thing. They were lend-leasing Istanbul, really making it gear up, and then the Soviets come in with a huge army, and both sides lose just about everything. The Soviets took it with an infantry and two artillery. So I figured that was a pretty decent opportunity to just strike back, and took my army, plowed into Istanbul, took that back quite easily since there was only 3 units there. But of course, then we had to deal with the rest of the Red Army. Fortunately, we didn't have to worry about it that turn because we did our special ability, and that was also when we were able to snake Moscow. It I don't know. I never know what I feel about just like snaking a capital like that. Like on one hand, it's a pretty gamey thing to do. You lose your money for the turn. The other side, well, capital's usually worth a little something. $8 here, $4 there. So it always feels a little slimy, a little snaky. But on the other hand, like it's a tournament game, and we're trying to get everything we can, and also the resources that he's not committing to Moscow are just resources that otherwise I'm having to contend with elsewhere. And so I really did put a lot of thought into, do I really take Moscow right now? And I ended up doing it, and of course that denied probably close to 40, $50, which of course is huge when you're considering uh, a big buy for the Russians is coming up soon. So it was quite the perfect storm that allowed me to even take Moscow. The Italians had to take this territory, and the only way they could take it was if they got long range aircraft, and they did. They just completed it on the turn that they needed to, and so they took it here, and then that was my landing spot. Um, and so that's kind of what set the pace for the Russian theater. And what's crazy is Major Foe and I were talking after the game, and he was like, "Dang, I thought you really had Rush on the ropes there." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I I never had Rush on the ropes, at least at least through my perspective." Um, Partially because maybe I was just looking at Lebensraum too hard, and I was looking at Novosibirsk real hard for a long time. There was probably 3 or 4 solid turns where I was just, all right, how do I get this city tile? Because I had Kiev, I had Stalingrad, I just needed one more, and hey, why not this one? Um, then I realized that's never happening, so let's just go this way. And well, of course, it worked out quite well for us, but oh boy, I never in a million years would have gotten would have gotten Novosibirsk, and I was just so tunnel visioned on that that perhaps it did cloud the rest of my ambitions in Russia. I mean, he did such a good job keeping specifically these 2 lanes closed the entire game from me, um, so that I couldn't push into Moscow. Not sure if I even could have taken it. I probably had 10 planes, which would have been nice, but would have been really hard to take it, especially surviving. Um, Geez, I don't even. So there's six, there's 12, there's another five. So that's 17 infantry alone that are just sitting in Moscow, or that just came from Moscow, plus a bunch of militia, anti-aircraft guns. It would have been a terrible, terrible battle that would have cost pretty much everything from Germany, and that's why I never wanted to do it. But who knows? Maybe I've got more learning to do. Maybe I need to Maybe I need to learn to just do it a little bit better next time, and who knows? Who knows? But yeah, that's about it. Italy had a really tough time after the loss of their fleet. I mean, they had a tough time in the beginning. The British were so strong. Then once the British left the Mediterranean, and I was like, oh man, the Italians, it's time for them to become the masters of the Med. They got killed right away, and it wasn't even close. Like I said, I think I got 3 hits, and I wish I were exaggerating. I think I actually got 3 hits. Um, so that was not good. It did force the British to turn around for a couple of turns to leave the Japs alone. Um, you're welcome, the veteran. You're welcome for that one. But because everything was still intact, they just went right back and hurt the Japanese Navy so much for the whole rest of the game. That's why I think there's only subs remaining. And so the Italians were just playing interference in Egypt, and that was about it. Nothing more they could do, and well, they really didn't want to do anything more anyway, just because they'd probably get killed otherwise. It was always a constant threat of, do I lose northern Italy and Rome any given turn? Hopefully not, but maybe. Especially these gosh darn French fighters that were on map half the game right here, stopping me from doing any real attacks into the area. Um, so that was a joy. It would have been tough to take anything anyway, but um, always just trying to figure out, okay, so this is what the rules say. Is there any exceptions, or are there any if-then statements that I can satisfy, or am I just dead in the water? And his map program, Arbub's map program was fantastic. So he did a good job keeping Malta, Gibraltar, and Egypt out of my hands commandingly. So good times all around. Good times all around. I didn't pay too much attention to China, but of course the CCP evolved and gave them another point for that, so that was pretty cool. And who knows? I don't think the CCP have nearly enough horses to take Nanking, and so the Japs would have surrendered on their turn. The Allies come in, take that, and that'd have been another point for them that the Comintern wasn't going to get. So who knows? Who knows what would have happened? I think in a few turns longer, the Allies would have, of course, won. I think there were just a few times that the Axis could have won, and unfortunately, that was the very early game, and the end game had we had extremely good luck, and that's just never what you want to base a game on. So the Allies did such a good job, and I like honestly everybody did such a good job. I liked how there was really no gamesmanship of like, oh well, let's get this side out of the running just because I don't want them to win. It was like I'm going for my own objectives. I'm not going for I'm not just going for revenge type stuff, which was really cool. And even I didn't even start bombing this rail to deny the point until the end of the game, when we just were when the, and I wouldn't have done it had the points been so close. Um, if the points weren't so close, I really wouldn't have wanted to, first of all, risk sending bombers down here, but also it just doesn't seem like a realistic thing for a player to do, attack the line. Um, but when you're trying to tie the game, losing this here and then just trying to tie it by attacking that, it's just the easiest thing to do. And so, fortunately, we never we never even went to sudden death. We rolled really really high on all these end game rolls, so I never had to deal with that. But that's the game. The Allies won, so congratulations to our Bubs and Major Foe. They'll head on over to the championship game, hopefully to be finished up by Christmas. Um, but we'll see. I know there's going to be a lot of strategy going into that game. Some big players going in there. I saw Jinx was in there, the Electreon, and um, Tactical maybe. I think I saw Tactical was in that one. So should be a fun one. I know I'm gonna watch it. That sounds really fun. But this is the board state. This is how it ended. Oh, yep, good old Australia, liberated, but they've surrendered, so they're American now. Welcome to statehood, everybody. um, yeah, that's all I have to say. We tried our best. We got close. We really did. Um, but I know we put up a good fight, and it was a really, really, really fun game. So until the next video, I'll see y'all in the next one. I know I'm doing Operation the Final Armies right now, so of course I'll still be putting stuff up. Don't you worry about me. No, no breaks around here. Just more and more content. So I hope you all enjoyed Operation Andromeda. I know I really did, and so keep coming back for more and more games. I'm happy to put them out. It's always a good time. Always playing with good guys. So I'll see y'all later.